Welcome to Ensight Solutions. My name is Don Wolf. I'm with the Likwifier division, and I'm the product line manager. And what we have beside me is the high-speed Likwifier, the LOR WWSS model, and we want to be able to show you some of the variations that we can add to this model, and then also run some product today. This is an LOR WWSS model, one of our highest end models. It's a high-speed blender with a slow scraper agitator. And this particular unit has two jackets. It has a cone jacket and a sidewall jacket. We're able to use steam or hot water to heat the product, or we also could use cold water to cool the product to a desired temperature. It also has a high-speed impeller in the bottom, and the high-speed impeller can have different variations. We have a general purpose impeller, we have a high shear impeller. We can also blend powders. We can also blend blocks of material like cheese blocks and butter blocks. This particular unit also has a scrape surface, so we can do dual agitation. We can blend at the same time we're blending below with the impeller. We can also blend with the scrape surface. And this particular model has a split level top. What that means is that the top comes completely off. So you can actually get free access to bring in your products into the product zone and be able to blend it. In this unit, we also have a gear drive that we are using with a particular stainless steel motor combination, and we're able to run a scrape surface agitator at 20 RPMs. This allows you to prevent burn-on if you're heating, and it also helps you with slow agitation. So we use the combination. It also comes in handy for high viscosity product. This blender is capable of heating and cooling. So what we have here is a dual jacket combination, and we're going to make an icing today, or a glaze. And in the sweet good business or the industry, we're able to actually make the icing in here and actually cut about 1/3 of the blend time using a Likwifier to accomplish that task. And with icing formulas, we have an extra couple features that we can add to the blender. This particular unit can cook and cool, which is a great feature, but we also can add a jacket to it to where you actually have plumbing to where we can control the steam coming in, and we can also control the time of temperature of the particular product. So with an icing, we can use a combination of the Likwifier, a control system that is a programmer that we can set up to actually activate a gum or an auger. And we also can control multiple steam valves, not only for the steam flow, but also for bleed off. On this specific unit, we have an actual steam valve that we will control through our PLC program. And we're able to actually turn it on to a set PSI, which we'd like to try to run it at 50 to 90 PSI steam rating. And then we also would like to go ahead and run it for a certain length of time. So our program we can set up to be able to actually go to a particular temperature in the product zone, and we are able to also be able to control the temperature throughout that 3-minute timer. Behind the unit, we have a steam valve that's air actuated that we're going to be able to control, and when we're done heating, we're able to turn that off, and then we're able to turn 2 bleed off valves on to bleed off our condensate. So with any type of jacket in the industry, you want to try to eliminate any type of condensate. And so when we do that, we actually have 2 open valves that we will open for a certain length of time to bleed off the condensate, and then we're able to go ahead and make our next batch. So you see here a PLC program that we've developed utilizing our Likwifier, jacketed valves that we can control the heating and cooling of a product, and we could also control valves, outlet valves, and also pump. If you push the overview, you're able to look at actually a completed cook cycle. You're able to actually look at your amps, your RPMs of each motor, You're also able to see see your steam valve in action if it's actually running during the time that you look at your overview screen. If you go back to the main menu, we have different opportunities to go through different screens. This particular screen is our cook cycle. We could have a combination of 1 to 5 of these for setting up for different formulas. And what's important for us is to be able to change the cook temperature. You're able to actually go in here and change the cook temperature for a particular formula. And then you're able to actually change the enter cook time. You can go in here and enter it, and it changes your cook time. When you're ready, at some point, you can actually start your cook cycle. We also have a bleed off. Bleed off means that you're opening 2 steam condensate relief valves that are in the back, and you're able to adjust how long they're open, and that allows you to bleed off any condensate out of your system, and it protects your equipment. When you're ready, you can go ahead and push start, and that goes through the cook cycle. And at the same time that you're doing this, you can adjust your start and stop on each one of your drives. So on this particular screen, we're able to actually adjust your speed. You can start and stop your impeller. It actually shows amps and the speed that you're running. The other side, you can actually start your scraper. You can run it forward and reverse. You can start and stop it. So there's a good combination of what you can do while you're blending your product. And then when we're ready, when we've already set up our cook temperature and we've set our cook time, we can go ahead and actually start a cook cycle. When you're ready to run your cook cycle, you push start, and it actually opens up a steam valve in the system, and you're able to actually bring in live steam through the jacket and to be able to cook your product. And you'll see here, this is the temperature of the product that's in there currently, and we're going to get to this temperature. And once we get to the cook temperature, the cook time will start for a certain length of time, and you'll notice a countdown timer that will begin to show us how much time we have left on the cook time. In this particular steam valve, it actually shows us a gauge on how much the steam valve is open during the cook cycle. During a warm cycle, you'll see it at a lower opening at 50% instead of 100%, because we don't want to go over our warm stage temperature. When we're done here, we can actually stop and go to a warm cycle, which you may see. We're going to go back. I got to turn off something first. I'm going to stop our cook cycle prematurely because we're running through this video. So at the end of our cook cycle, we go ahead and bleed off for 20 seconds, and then we're able to actually go to a warm cycle or a different screen where you can actually go to this screen and be able to adjust your temperature. So if you're ready, you can go in here and you can change to a temperature that you want to maintain your product at, and you set that, let's say, at 125, and then when you're ready, you can push your button and start warming, and it'll modulate your steam valve at about 50% open, so we don't go over our particular set point. And so we've got 2 stages. We got the cook cycle, and we also have a warm cycle for this particular PLC program. We also have alarms that we can set up. Alarms could mean that you have a door that's open, that you need to reset it. You have a safety reset that you can reset, and you can actually see an alarm history. If, for instance, this shows a cook tank back lid emergency stop, and we also have help screens that you can go in and you may be able to go through and see if there's a fault on a particular motor or a bleed-off valve. You can go in here and actually monitor your blender and see where you're at. So we have different cook cycles. You can have different recipes for different products. If throughout the day you're not just making one product, but you might be making a combination, You might have different set points. So you may have a cook temperature that's different, cook time that's different. So you're able to actually go through certain recipe screens and to monitor and actually adjust your cook time set points, or you can just go to a different recipe. So if you can, we have recipe 1 and 2 in this particular program, and we can set up more recipes, more detail. We can actually allow it to control more than what we have here. But on this particular combination, we have a cook cycle and a warm cycle, and we have 2 recipes. So we can create multiple recipes. We've got here an actual program that we've created using an icing formula and using a combination of our high-speed liquefier. It's an LOR WWSS model, and it also has a jacket and also steam valves to be able to control it. We're using this PLC program. It's a touchscreen program, and we're able to actually touch it and be able to go through the different screens to allow us to implement all the functions of the liquefier. The overview just shows the liquefier in a certain stage, and it actually shows amp load of our motors, so we can actually see if it's running, even in this particular screen. But it also will show you steam valve being open or closed, and it'll show you the actual blender. And up here it actually shows a cook cycle being completed. So if you go back to the main menu, we have different alarms that can be set up. If you accidentally open one of our screen doors, you actually may set off an alarm. And when that happens, it shuts your power down to give you some protection. We also have some other alarms that we can set up. We also have an alarm history of this particular model. We have different stages of when we're making an icing. One of the first stages is the cook cycle, which we could set up a recipe that has a combination of a cook cycle, and it allows us to function throughout the time that we're heating by controlling the impeller speed and also the scraper speed. So down here, as you can tell, we have a cook tank VFD impeller. You can actually start the impeller by pushing start and stop, and you can adjust your speed of that impeller. The other side here shows the scraper assembly, and the scraper assembly is actually the slow agitator that we're helping to not only move the product, but to prevent burn-on during the cook stage. We're actually able to start and stop, and we can even forward and reverse that particular scraper drive. Up here, we can actually go in and change the cook temperature. So with an icing, what we have to do is find out what activates a stabilizer. What activates an auger is what they call it. And it depends on the formula, depends on what you're trying to do. You can make an icing, you can make a glaze. So once you figure out your formula and how you want to approach it, you can go in here and actually change your cook temperature. And so when we set up most of the time for icings and glazes, you're going to probably have a 200 degree to a 212 degree range that you may set a particular recipe up with. So if you want to, you can actually adjust it, and then it'll show your actual cook temperature there. And at that point, we know that we're set for that particular batch that we're going to run. On the other hand, we can actually take and change the time that we're doing our rolling boil. And so when we do that, we can set the minutes. And this says 3. We can also change it and make it into 2. And it'll actually have our cook time set for us to run the icing formula. And so that's pretty simple. And we're able to actually go through. You can change these from batch to batch, depends on the formula that you want to blend. The other thing that's great about this, it'll actually show you your steam valve gauge, and so you're able to watch it and make sure that you know that it's heating throughout the project. We also have a start cook cycle, what actually allows us to open up our steam valves. And the steam valves are, a steam valve is behind the blender, and we're able to actually open up to 100% to where we can cook to a rolling boil. And you can actually hear some of the steam going right now. And what'll happen is, if our temperature currently is 106 degree F, we're actually opening the valve to 100% open. And when we push start, it's actually starting to warm up the blender, or the formula, the product that you have in it. It's actually warming it from 106 to 205 degrees. And so at 205 degrees, it will start this enter cook time of 2 to 3 minutes. And so at the end of that 2 to 3 minutes, it'll actually turn off the steam valve, and then you'll actually hear 2 open valves in the back drain the condensate out of the system. And that does 2 things. It prevents hammering in your blender, in your jacket, and it also helps to actually cool down the vessel a little faster by relieving some of the condensate. Then at that point, we're actually completed with the cook stage, and we can add the remaining ingredients. So after we add the remaining sugar, flavors, oils, you're probably looking at a finished product. But this finished product may be at 130 to 150 degrees, and you may not want to transfer it over to your hold tank until you're ready. And so you may want to maintain your temperature in here. And instead of doing a cook stage, we actually can go to a warm stage, and we can enter your warm temperature. Immediately we can put in your 225 degrees, whatever temperature you would like, and then we can actually start the warm stage, and you can enter it just like we did earlier, and it'll change it if you'd like to have that changed. And then you can go ahead and go ahead and do your warm cycle. And you can maintain your warm cycle for a period of time until you're ready to transfer it to your hold tank. And so let's say that you have 800, 900 pounds in here in a 100-gallon blender. You're going to be able to transfer this now by opening up your outlet valve and your pump and transfer it over to a hold tank, in which we also provide hold tanks. And you'll maintain a temperature over there, and that allows the operator to come back in and make the next batch. So he'll transfer the contents over to the hold tank, and then he'll go ahead and start his next batch in the liquefier, and we redo the whole purpose of doing our rolling boil, our cook cycle, and then we can also maintain our temperature here. And then you might ask, okay, what are we doing with an icing and a glaze? We're actually transferring it to a hold tank, or we can transfer it over to an applicator.